A lot of questions out there, and I encourage you, as you are listening to some of these discussions today, if something comes to mind, please write it down. I have a tendency to forget things, so just do yourself a favor and write down the question. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And there are a lot of questions out there, a lot of choices in the marketplace. As a food buyer, you hear about so many different types of food: organic, non-organic, locally, naturally grown. What do all of these things mean exactly? Let's turn to Alex for this first question. Tell us the basic difference now between organic, non-organic, naturally grown, because it can be kind of confusing.
It can be confusing, and there's a lot of green labels out there that even muddy the water further, I guess. The basic thing with organic versus not is that, one, organic now is, of course, a federally regulated label, but the difference is between the use of synthetic materials and not. In organics, no synthetics are allowed, and they view genetically modified organisms as a synthetic being. And then on the other side, as well with organics, particularly that came in at 2000 with the federal program, is the farmers have to have a farm plan. They have to have a rotation plan. They have to use cover crops. It's a lot more involved than just, can I use this material or not? So it's a little more in depth than otherwise. And then everything else runs downhill from there with natural. And
so what's the difference between, you say, organic and natural?
Well, strictly in the natural, in most products, there is no regulation. There is now a group out of New York called Naturally Grown, and they certify folks throughout the country. And so that's, say, a step down from organic, but they are looking to see what materials are used and how the farm is run and that kind of thing.
So that's not as regulated then as
not
organic,
as regulated,
so to speak. So that's maybe one of the things that can be kind of floating in the middle somewhere.
Exactly.
Huh. Now, since it sounds like there are a lot of steps you have to take to make your farm organic, does that ever factor into what you grow or what you produce?
I think it probably does, because different crops do better in different climates, and so eventually, like any farmer, and Bo will tell you this, is that your farm is suited to grow certain things really well, and so particularly in a certified organic arena, they may say, I just can't grow melons, or I can't grow this because of the environment's just not suitable, and so we end up like we do in all the rest of the country, with certain areas specializing in certain crops.
Are you seeing, what did you grow primarily?
Tomatoes are our number one. We do a lot of peppers. We're in pepper season right now. We do quite a bit of lettuce, but there's certain things we don't grow well. We don't grow a lot of the melons and squash and that sort of family well on our farm, and so it's been a matter of trial and error over 30 years.
Now, Bo, you grow a lot of sort of typical North Carolina crops. Was it like soybeans, corn, wheat, that kind of thing? But I think what sets your farm apart a little bit is that I guess you have consumers coming out to your farm, or you have more interaction?
We do. Now, we are a diversified family farm, and our farm is family. It's been in our family for over 6 generations now, and we're proud of that. We are considered a larger farm. We grow approximately 2,300 acres of these row crops, the corn, wheat, and soybeans, that primarily go to feed the animal industry here in our state. The majority of the corn and the soybean meal that is produced from our farm goes to feed the poultry and the swine industries here in our state. But we are a little different in that we do grow produce, and that we have a small roadside stand where we have customers and consumers coming out to our farm, and that we grow strawberries and sweet corn and a few melons and things like that for them there.
What do you have now? Is that organic, or is that?
No, we are not organic. We grow, I guess, more conventionally there. We do use pesticides and synthetic fertilizers and those sorts of things. And I think Alex brought out a very good point earlier, is that organic certification means that you don't use these synthetic pesticides. It doesn't mean that you don't use any pesticides. There's just certain ones that you can and can't use to be certified organically. On our farm and the production that we have, we are not organic, and we do use some of these synthetic pesticides on our farm. It's important to point out that they are regulated, and that each of these pesticides go through a rigorous testing and all from the companies before they're able to reach the market. And then, of course, we are regulated in how we use them, and we have to follow those guidelines.
At your roadside stand, do you find a lot of people are asking you questions about that?
It's become more and more here lately as that becomes, we move more into the information age, and people have these questions, and it's very important to have that conversation with them to let them know not only what we're using, but also why.
Dr. Hines, can you speak to, so many people want to know, okay, is organic that much better for me? Should I You may. I think you're going to have something, and this could be good. But what is your opinion, though? You specialize, I guess, in pediatrics as well. What is your opinion on using organic versus non-organic and conventional methods? And
I like it. You know, Linda.
Which one?
Yeah, organic. It's delicious. We eat organic food. I reckon Jesus probably ate organic food. You know,
Told you it's going to get good.
It is, and I really enjoy locally grown food. I'm a big fan of locally grown food. I buy my produce. We buy our produce from a conventional farm, exactly like yours, in the summertime when we can. I try to treat my patients like I would and do my family and my children and my grandchildren. I tell people, I can't imagine any farmer that I know who grows anything that any creature or person eats that he wouldn't feed to his own creatures and his own family. I can't imagine that. So there's not any real difference. And when it comes down to a family budget, buying a conventionally produced agricultural item, I think, is absolutely as safe as organic. All of my in-laws and daughter, my daughter-in-law and my daughter and my two daughters-in-law all use organic milk. For the reason that the person at the market was commenting, they're just not so sure, they're fearful of estrogens. That's pretty far-fetched, I think, to think that those things would actually be harmful unless you drank very large quantities, and I reckon there are some 16-year-old boys that do that. But on the other hand, the comment that this person made about puberty coming earlier, the girls are developing earlier, well, for a long, long time, long before the present, the last 50 years, it's been coming earlier in both boys and and girls always develop about a year before boys. I don't think there's any real change there.
And you don't attribute the change in that to either hormones and
no, I'll tell you where this kind of thing can happen. We do see soy products can have some estrogen similarity. That's why a lot of women who eat natural food after menopause eat soy. Or use a lot of soy products and hopefully get a little bit of estrogen effect. Hair products. There are a lot of hair products, particularly that have soy in them. And quite commonly, I'll see a little girl who's getting some development at age 4 or 5, and that's the first thing I ask is, are you using products on her hair, and can you tell me what's in it? And usually now they just get the phone, call up somebody, and find out what's in it. It almost always has some sort of soy in it. You put enough of it on, put enough of it applied direct to the skin, that kind of thing can happen. But I don't think it puts any of my patients at risk. And the honest truth is, the people who feed their children organic milk usually are the people who've got enough money to buy it. And the people who don't, I think they're being very responsible parents when they give them regular milk purchased from Lowe's Foods.
Thank you.
Nice segue. I was just going to talk.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Just going to talk with Richard, representing Lowe's Foods. We had a question submitted by an audience member from registration, and they want to know how large chain food retailers are helping farmers support these types of choices with organic, locally grown, and all that. What is Lowe's doing?
It's a great question. It's also a difficult question. We're a locally owned, family-run business. We've been in business 75 years in the Carolinas, and we've always bought local. It just made sense. I mean, why would you put something on a truck and bring it across country if you could grow it in your own backyard? But the local buzz has really taken off in the last several years, and so we sat down and we looked at everything we did, and we said, well, we do that. Maybe we should tell someone that we're doing it. So that caused us to really look at our business strategy as a whole and just really start to ramp up. And then the deeper we got into it, the more we realized that it's really not that simple. Logistics plays a key role in everything. And our company by no means as large as a Walmart or other retailers out there that are selling food, yet still with 102 stores, the logistics of being able to supply all your stores 365 days a year with all the products that your customers want make it very, very difficult. Typically, a buyer or category manager is responsible for supplying products in their category. And I think this is pretty typical in the industry as a whole. that those individuals are going to try and spec out the product needs that they need to cover their stores in the most efficient way possible. So now as you start to drill down to, well, let's buy local, and you say, well, I need X amount of truckloads of product to supply my stores this week, it becomes really burdensome to stop and say, but I have a local farm over here who can supply me with 25 cases of tomatoes, yet I need 3,500 cases.
Sure.
So we've had to rethink how we go about our business, and we have somewhat walked to the cliff and said we think it's the right thing to do. We've allocated more resources to do it, but it is very, very difficult and very, very time consuming as you ratchet down and you start dealing with smaller and smaller farms. But that's the commitment we've made the last 3 years. We've had a lot of success with it. We've created a lot of excitement in our stores. Our store managers have embraced it. Customers have embraced it, but it's a lot of work to get there.
I appreciate everything that you do, because I do shop at Lowe's Foods. Not bring that into the mix, but I appreciate seeing all the locally grown foods that you all offer. And speaking of locally grown, there are so many choices, again, to consumers. Vicki, you are with like a home food delivery service, Carolina Grown. Are you seeing more people ask for this type of home food service delivery? I mean, what got you into this?
We do. We started the business because of filling some needs in the market for just an added convenience factor, because we do home delivery. And we also want to go an extra step. We try to visit the farms that we work with, and that allows us to educate our consumers onto where they're buying their product from, how those farms are operating, and it allows the farms to kind of broaden their network and go into other markets that they may not currently be in, including some smaller farms that might not be able to sell to a Lowe's Foods because they don't have that capacity, but we will take them on and offer what they have. So,
a lot of choices out there. It's nice to have those options.
Linda, let me just jump in also. Just one more thing on the local piece is not unlike the definition of natural. The definition of local is very loose among retail businesses.
Like on the continent or something? Or?
Yeah.
yeah.
What'd you say, Northern Hemisphere?
Yeah. I think the consumer needs to sort of ask the store or whatever, what is your definition of local?
Really?
And it may, I know some, like we sell the Weaver Street Market, and theirs is within the state, I think, or 250 miles or something like that. At the farmer's market we sell at, it's 50 miles. Everything has to be grown within 50 miles. And so everyone does have a different definition.
And we define it as being within the state of North Carolina. So that's how we define local for our customers.
Well, that's good to know.